Okay, the importance of land banking over other sources of investment is going to be taking our attention. And if you're right there listening to us this morning, I know already you know the importance of this discussion we're going to be carrying out. We really want you to know and feel the impact of what this discussion is going to have in your dealings and anything you want to carry out when it comes to doing property business. Once again, we welcome you to the show. Don't forget to turn down the volume of your radio set or shift away from your radio to be part of us. In the course of this program, we're also going to be asking questions. And anyone that can get it right will definitely have a beautiful face cap courtesy of GIA Consult Nigeria Limited. They have very beautiful products, and I know you want to have one. It's a U-type period, and everybody wants to get that kind of thing now where we make the shine for face. They feel so good. And you know, say someday, well. And when you wear, and I don't need to describe the face cap, it's so beautiful, I tell you. And who are those people that are winning today? Join us to get involved in the discussion and also make impact to see if you want to do business with GIA Consult Nigeria Limited to get involved in what we do right here in a very perfect form. Let's go to the CEO of GIA Consult Nigeria Limited, Honorable Gordon Agwene, this very morning to talk to us about the importance of land banking over other sources of investment. Let's hear from you.
Welcome once again, Nigerians. Basically, we know that land banking is an investment. It's a way of securing financial security. Somebody may be fast enough to tell me that there are a couple of other ways to make such investments. Some people will say you can do crypto, you can do stock, and all those blah blah blah. Now they also have their benefits, their advantages. But as far as land banking is concerned, its illiquidity is one of the basic advantages. One, if you have a target that you are pursuing, you are running towards, you are working towards, and you use other sorts of investment to secure money for those or the same target, it is obvious that because other sorts of investment are very liquid by maybe, okay, let me take for instance, you are drinking in a bar, you have 10K in your pocket and you have spent 12K. Other investments are things you can just dispose and pay off the balance. But because that land is not so liquid, it's not something you can sell within minutes, it's not something you can sell within seconds, it is an advantage, I think. It is a very big advantage. Again, you know that land is a tangible thing. For those young, I think the jet age, the teens generation, the computer age, they believe in crypto, they think that crypto is the way to go. But crypto is something that is virtual. You cannot know when the company is folding or when the company, but land is something that is very tangible. As far as you have made the right investment, you can always go back to where your property is and say that, yes, I have my property here. And coming back to the liquidity I earlier talked about, you already know that fluctuation, inflation, and a couple of other things can affect other sorts of investment. Someone may be smart or may be fast enough to say, no, that when you do crypto, you are doing it with foreign companies, that it is dollar. But you don't know that there are government policies that can affect the rate of dollar in Nigeria. If, for instance, you invested $2,000 in crypto, and as at the time of your investment, dollar was sold at 1,500 per dollar, 1,500 naira to $1, and eventually a good government comes. We are praying, we are hoping that something will happen. Maybe the present government or the future government or any government policy comes and brings dollar down to, let's say, 400 naira per dollar. If you have accumulated 2,500 as profit, maybe $500 as profit from your initial investment, you agree with me that by the time you withdraw your 2,500 and you liquidate, you understand that what you are having is 2,500 multiplied by 400, which is the current rate of the dollar to naira. But in property investments, in land banking, when you have bought a plot of land for 5 million, in fact, I can tell you authoritatively that any land you are pricing today, that the price and the value of that land is the cheapest today. It can never be cheaper tomorrow than it is today, except somebody is selling under duress. And if you have spent a couple of time, even when you are selling under duress, you will still sell higher than what you bought. So inflation don't really affect the prices of land and the investment potentials inherent. We will continue shortly.
Okay, you talked about appreciation, present developments and what happens in the future. Now, how do you want to advise someone who wants to really go into property business, do business with your company, to adhere to these explanations you just given?
Okay, firstly, the essence of the explanation is to tell us that even if you are buying stocks from a company, that the profitability or the possibility of your making profits from that stock depends on how the company is thriving. A lot of other factors, government influence, economic, and a couple of other things will affect whether the company is going to run profits or run deficits. Now, if you choose to do land banking and you have done your due diligence, I try to stress on doing due diligence, especially when you are dealing with companies or individuals you don't really know or that don't really have faces, faceless companies and individuals like that. If you have done your due diligence and you have purchased a plot of land, the good news is that that plot of land will never be sold for less than what you purchased it. So the advice is, when you're considering whether to invest in stocks and stuff like that, there are companies that once you buy stock from a company, you have become a shareholder. And becoming a shareholder means that you are sharing from their profits and their losses. You are profits from their profits and their losses. You are also partaker of that. So you can always benefit from stocks when the stocks are rising, when all things are equal. And I would say in Nigeria, globally, all things can never be equal. All things being equal is an ideal situation. They are not always practical. But when you buy a plot of land that is genuine, remember I stress being genuine. So you have to do your due diligence properly to ensure that the company you are dealing with, if you are not dealing with GIA Consult, that the company you are dealing with, that they are genuine, and that the individual that are linking you to buy those properties, that they are genuine. Once you make that investment, be rest assured that you have bought for yourself an investment that will need less attention. You don't need much maintenance for land. You don't need much attention. All you do is, people cannot even stay the land. Once you have done the proper documentation, even if fraudsters go and sell the property, it will take you just a little, maybe litigation and stuff like that, but your property will still come back to you. Just do the due diligence. Make sure your documentations are intact, your documentations are correct. Once you do that, unless for any reason government begins to creep into such environments, there is no risk to land. Once you have done your proper documentation, there is no risk. Land grabbers, especially when you buy from a reliable company, and reliable companies will also ensure that as at the time of their purchase, that they have also done their due diligence to ensure that there is no government interest in those properties they are selling. Because most likely you are going to come back to the company to begin to make problems, and those problems will not be good for the market value of the company.
You mentioned something very pertinent or important, which is doing business with the companies that really know how to carry it out and please their customers. I observed something in the week. I had an opportunity of getting close to one of the courts in town, and I found out that one of the high cases that people go to court to argue about is land. Why do you think it's so rampant to see a lot of people going to court to fight for either their own land or something else as relates to properties?
Well, being that property is one of the thriving investments, a couple of fraudsters have also, and land grabbers have also told that line. When somebody has purchased a property without due diligence, there are chances that cases are going to arise tomorrow. When somebody has also purchased a property or properties without proper documentation, there are chances that when those cases arise tomorrow, you may be at the losing end. In law, I'm not a lawyer, but I've been opportune maybe by virtue of the process of the business. In law, there is what they call possession. Anybody that have done proper documentation is in possession. He is the person that is in possession of the property in any litigation process. So by the time the litigation will now be to collect it from the person that is, land is not something you buy and you take home. So the person that is owning it as at the time of the litigation or at the time of any case is the person who has done the perfect, that is the proper documentation. If you buy a plot of land and you pay, maybe the company gives you the, what is it called? They give you their document, maybe deed of lease, and you don't end up registering it, you don't end up doing survey, which we do ourselves, and we do that free of charge for our customers. But you don't, maybe a surveyor comes and does sketch for you, you think he has done survey, but sketch is different from registered survey. And if you are a novice, you will assume that both of them are the same. But if you properly do the due diligence and you understand that what you have done, you have committed. I used to tell people that when you buy property from maybe a company or from an individual and you have gone to the government to do the proper registration, that you have indirectly committed the government to that property. So somebody that is coming tomorrow to lay claims or ownership, I will say that the government will be partial in the judgment. But they will definitely know that this is one person. There's something in Igbo adage, they say, no. If you understand Igbo perfectly, it is the farmer who I have eaten his yam that I call a real farmer. You understand? So when you have bought property from a company and you have done things that brought money, brought tax, brought revenue to the government is eventually in the court, because I call the court part of the government in this context. The government or the court, they will eventually be tilting towards wanting to justify if somebody is coming to collect something for who they already call their clients. You become a client to the government when you do the due diligence.
Okay, as we move on, we're going to be asking critical questions for people to understand where we're coming from and where we're going and where we're standing at the moment. What do you want to let the people listening, millions listening to you this morning, to feel about GIA, to believe in GIA, and to have that trust in GIA?
Well, for the fact that each time I come to radio, I talk about due diligence, I want our listeners to understand that GIA is one company that does due diligence before they enlist any property. There are a couple of properties that we are working on enlisting at the moment. Those properties, you won't see them on our website, you won't see them on our flyers, you won't see them, you won't see us marketing them until we have concluded the due diligence. Unlike a couple of companies that once they conclude with a particular community, they commit them, they start selling. Yes, there is what is called pre-launch. We also do pre-launch. Pre-launch is that everything may not have been concluded, but the critical things must be concluded before we list a company. What I do is selling land. I don't know how to do land litigation cases and all that, and I avoid that I avoid that with everything in me.
In every way.
In every way.
Because definitely when you go to the courts and you see how people are struggling, fighting, abusing each other right there because of land, it creates a lot of things in people's minds. And I just don't have anything to say this morning to you out there listening. If you are ready to buy a property, but a little advice: make sure you get involved with a company that can give you rest of mind, because it also comes from the company. If you get involved with a company that is not worthy, that is ready to grab without giving the real services, then that person might just end up in the courts. And before you know, you're going to begin to regret.
Okay, let me educate us a little more. If you buy a property from a reliable company or from any company, whether reliable or not, and an individual or anybody that is not government, I will say come to the government side, comes to begin to drag that land from you, the person that is owing you is not even the person dragging the land, it is the company. If the company has not done the due diligence, they sold the property that eventually belongs to another person. It is the company. In fact, it is a fraud. It is actually a fraud. Now, if you also buy a property from a company and government comes to begin to drag that property, and that property eventually belong to the government as at the period of the sale. That is, government had interest. There is evidence that there is government interest in the property as at the time you are purchasing, or as at the time you purchase that property. The company is supposed to pay you back. It is even the company you are supposed to take to the court, not even the government. But the only way the company can be free is because governments, they have their ways. They can always come, you know what happened in Old Park and stuff like that. They can always come and generate interest in a certain location that is not even within, that is, the land tenure system makes it that every property belongs to the government. That is true. But there are properties that government has indicated interest in. And some people, and these are the properties that you see that are very cheap in the market. So I want my listeners to just not consider the prices of properties while buying. Sometimes very cheap properties are red flags. They are red flags. I repeat, they are red flags.
All right. You know what we do right here on the Land Banking Show? We try as much as possible to tell you or relate an issue that happens in the courts. Tell us the truth and nothing but the truth. And that's what we do because we're in the Land Banking Court, which is a Land Banking Show. We try as much as possible to educate you, to make you understand what and where you should go through to make your money. Because these days, there's a high blood pressure, they feel everywhere, and they amount to a lot of debts. And I wouldn't want someone who want to get into, stock taking in terms of, properties, to begin to get heartbreak. You wake up, you say the person don't die. You don't know what happened to her because of the troubles. After investing such amount of money in millions,